Hey.
The power to laugh is it's not a gift, man. It's a trust. It's a community ideal. To be able to put people in a room, it's talking about some of the most difficult of things, painful, hurtful things, but yet congeal an environment where people humanity, show compassion, and show mercy. Lee's attorney Clarence Darrow also said when it came to humor, if you lose the power to laugh, you lose the power to think. With that, I present the End of Racism Comedy Lecture Tour Virtual Edition.
I think racism is the reason why you never ever see any black people in tan commercials. You're laughing, but if you went to the local pharmacy, you saw a cardboard cutout of me with some suntan lotion, you'd be confused. It's a killer. They don't tell you this. It affects everybody. Guess what? Racism affects white people too. But they don't tell you. That's why I'm here. Work with me here, Black History Month. I'm Muslim. Muslims have Ramadan. Latinos have Latino Month. Asians have. What do my white brothers and sisters have? Nothing. You don't have a awareness month or Black Appreciation Day or a White Day or Richard Month or Holy Put out your right hand. Extend 5 fingers. I call this the fives. It's about thinking about language. Freedom. I believe there's always 5 letters to let us know just how close we are. 5 letters. Think outside the box. Here we go. You can count on them. 5 letters. I believe we all exist. EXIST. Here on earth, 5 letters by virtue of the fact we're all here in nature and man. Therefore, it doesn't matter if it's black 5 letters, white 5 letters, Asian 5 letters, or Latino, check the whole the A, so ain't true. I'm Muslim, that means I follow Islam, that's 5 letters. If you Christian follow Jesus, Jewish, you get Torah 5 letters too. The point of this is, as good as the sound is always going to be here, and it's 5 letters too. Because our power lies in our unity, UNITY. And a hater, you know how a hater is. Most of them are angry, some of them are upset, some of them are pissed off right now because damn it, they can't SPELL, and it's okay. Tell a hater, listen, man, if you can't spell it out, do the math. If you take 3 things away from the 5, it gives you peace. And that peace is spelled PEACE.
I proudly present the End of Racism Comedy Lecture Tour Virtual Edition, coming to a college near you. Why would I do a CD called Confessions of a Muslim Comedian? And that was the idea of bringing entertainment to Muslims, for Muslims, about Muslims, but for everybody.
I got Dean in my life. Who is Dean? What you bring me around here?
You know how Muslims get you all hyped up? You're like, brother, you ready to be Muslim? I said, yeah. He said, you know what that means? I said, tell me, brother. He said, you ready to give up the swine? I said, yes, sir. I'm giving up the swine. He said, are you ready to give up the alcohol? I said, yes, sir. I'm ready to give up the alcohol. He said, you ready to give up the women? I said, yes, sir. I'm ready to give up the alcohol. Hey everybody, Assalamu alaikum. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the notify button so you know when you're getting new episodes. And we just want to grow this project. I thank you in advance. Without further ado, let's get it rolling. The ShOUT Show. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS or ShOUT Show. Hope you're having a tremendous Tuesday. And if it's not tremendous, you know what? Wait on it. Be patient. It could get better, or then it could get worse. But be thankful. At least you got another Tuesday to work through. Going from the top, yesterday we had a very good, very interesting discussion talking about social media and things like that. That whole idea that something is so addictive, how technology has built in a component where things are just so addictive right now. And I really resonated with that. And thinking about that was something that carried me all the way through the day. It made me really rethink aspects of my career, what it was to start out as a young comedian back in 1984, if you will, in college. In 1984, 17 years old, learning the business, learning the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the hurts, if you will, the seedy side of it, the lack of compassion side of it. I mean, I've seen a lot of things I won't bring on stage. They had so much to do, so much less to do with comedy and entertainment and art. They had so much to do with greed. They had so much to do with consumption. They had so much to do with ego. And it's interesting because something happened today. You're probably watching it. You can look at the name of the show. It's called Dave Chappelle's Last Stand. Dave Chappelle released a thing on Instagram. He released something on Instagram, which was interesting because Instagram is totally unfiltered. Instagram TV. It's probably had 1 million some hits already. It's called Unforgiven. And what he narrates is the theft of his craft and how it almost, in many regards, ruined him. It changed his philosophy on people, the business, humanity. And I can't really put it on the way I want to because, it has a lot of, but I just want you to watch a little bit of it. Before we get to that, let me give my shout outs really quickly. Shout out to Sister Satana. Sister Satana, we were talking about this earlier today about Brother Chappelle, and I think it's really noteworthy that this thing comes out. Sister Kathina, welcome back. Walaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope you're doing well. Hope your daughter's doing well. Where did she get stationed? I know she had finished basic training. Where did she get stationed? I hope it's someplace warm. I hope it's not someplace cold like Michigan or one of those crazy places. And more importantly, I hope she got the placement that she wanted. That's a big thing about going into the military, getting the placement that you want. Brother Altaf, my main man, did it warm up in Toronto or not? I know you guys you told me you got about a half foot of snow, but did it warm up? Has the snow started to filter away? And how are you doing up there? I know Toronto shut back down again. They went back to one of the higher risk assessments, if you will, in terms of COVID. They've been doing so well, and now they're dealing with a huge outbreak. So my prayers go out to you and everybody out in Toronto. But this topic is really, really interesting. And so let me play this really quickly. It's very short. It's extremely short. And like I said, I can't really show all of it, because you might have some kids that watch, the show, and I don't want to, this is adult material. It's not so much a profanity, it's adult material. I wouldn't want young kids to see this because they're children. So let me get to it. There it is.
I'm begging you, if you ever liked me, if you ever think there was anything worthwhile about me, I'm begging you, please don't watch that show. I'm not asking to boycott any network. Boycott me. Boycott Chappelle's show. Do not watch it unless they pay me.
This is a big move. Now, and he's big enough where he could pull this off. He could pull this off if his fans rally behind him and enough other people do. Because the reality is, they're not. He says it later. He's like, watching Chappelle's show is watching stolen goods. If you're watching it right now, you do not have my blessing. I don't want you to watch this show anymore. And so while the studio is like, well, we made a deal with you. Why would we pay you extra? We own it. Why would we want to lose money on this deal? Which, look.
So from the outside, there's a lot of things. Okay, we got some. Okay, all right. Here we go. Thank you, sister. Appreciate you, brother Derek. You still down there, and you still up there in Michigan? What's going on, brother? Sister Ree, how are you? I hope all of y'all are doing well out there in Michigan and doing some major stuff. Yes, this has been a very interesting year with COVID and things like that. It has changed the dynamic of comedy in the United States, throughout the world, as a matter of fact, because you literally are making life and death choices about doing comedy, about going out. His comedy shows, if you ever go to his comedy show, you cannot get in unless you take a COVID rapid response test, meaning that you have to have your nose swabbed and go in and wait. It's all social distancing. No, but let me give Dave Chappelle a little love here. What you're seeing did not start last year. He had this conversation with several comedians, including myself, around 2006. Many of you know the story of how we came to, Allah Made Me Funny came to meet Dave Chappelle. It was during his low point. He had left the show, he had gone to South Africa, he'd come back. I happened to know Dave's brother and his mom and his sister. And I didn't really know him that well. A little background: when Dave took his shahada back in the day, the man who now is the president of comedy for Live Nation, Jeff Wills, called me because he was concerned that Chappelle was a Muslim. He said I'm in the car with him, he's reading the Quran, he has a tattoo that says, Dawood, what do I do? What do I do? I said, leave him alone. And at that time, brothers and sisters, he is correct about his faith. And you're going to hear some things. I suggest everybody, if you go to Instagram, look up Dave Chappelle. Unforgiven is what it's called. But he talked about this relationship, a very toxic relationship with Viacom, whereby he realized that his art was being very much pilfered, if you will. He was putting out art in a way whereby they did not want him to have any kind of residuals from his own art. In fact, he signed one of the biggest DVD deals, because that was one of the last things he was able to do to salvage this relationship. He was able to renegotiate his DVD deal to get more money out of the DVD deal. Let me give a shout out. What's going on, brother Muhammad? Thank you so much for coming to the show. We appreciate you. All right, man. I hope you're having a blessed day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I know you're hanging out there and it's late. Thank you for joining. But he talked about this toxic relationship with COVID. And I went, oh my gosh. I'm saying COVID and Viacom and same thing. Okay. This relationship with Viacom, whereby they wouldn't let him they would not let him partake in the profits. He was producing the content. They were producing it. I think it was a thing where he had his own production company, Pallet Boy Productions. And the idea was, he was asking them, why don't you just give me the money to produce it, and then we split the revenue. This is neither here nor there. When you watch this piece, it's about 18 minutes, called Unforgiven. He goes back to when he was 14 years old. He's a prodigy. Everybody in DC knew he was a child prodigy from the time he was 14 years old. It was something about this kid, granted. He was so poised, granted. He was very mature, granted. But he was kind-hearted, and he was still, at heart, a child. An adult comedian asked him if he could borrow one of his jokes. Dave, not understanding how the business works, said, yeah. The guy used it. He goes to a comedy club to go up and do a set. He sees the guy he loaned the joke to doing the same joke. He pulls the guy to the side and he goes, brothers and sisters, hey, I know I loaned you the joke. And the guy goes, yeah, I meant that. I talked to you before I did it again. And the guy doesn't say I'm sorry or here's your joke back. He offers Dave $50. He said, look, let me pay you $50 for the joke. Dave says, no, I'm a young comic. I need to build my material so I can go out and start generating revenue. I need my joke. And the guy rolls up over him and he says, I could just take it. Let me say it again. I could just take it. And therein begins the relationship that he has throughout the course of his life. Anybody that does any homework knows that Dave Chappelle unfortunately signed a really, really bad deal with Viacom. Nobody had any idea. He was known as the pilot boy back in the day, meaning that he had done a bunch of pilots for television that had failed. He had one called Buddies, failed. I mean, big pilots, failed. Nice spots in movies, never panned out, never became that superstar until the intersection of the Chappelle Show and social media, of all things. And he blows up. And Viacom does not renegotiate the deal. They mess him around, and then they start messing with his head. They start messing with his integrity, if you will. And why did I say that? Is this idea, brothers and sisters, that we have to understand that people have an addiction to greed. The corporations that you deal with, the Exxons, the Halliburtons, the Walmarts, they operate in a scenario whereby we think they're people. We think that these machinations have things like compassion and mercy and a sense of justice. They have none of those. And they hire people that make sure that they don't have the same values either. But Dave went through a whole process whereby things were taken from him. And when they're taken from you as a youth, they're taken from him. And he tried to take it back from somebody else. 3-card Marnie game. He lost his money. And he tried to make sure nobody else lost his money because he felt he'd been tricked. He'd been hoodwinked. And he yells and he tells the guy, a person coming to play 3-card Monty, he yells and the guy grabs him up and he says something to Dave that he remembers. He says, listen, never come between a man and his meal. Never come between a man and his meal. What does that mean, brothers and sisters? For the artist has art, the artist has creativity, but the artist has bills. The realities run parallel to one another. And you hope that the art carries you further enough whereby you can pay your bills and you can focus more on the art. What you're about to witness is an epic fight. Dave Chappelle is not fighting for him. He's not fighting for him. He's fighting for the ghosts of entertainers and creatives who suffered the same thing as him. He's fighting for the people who were forced to sign bad contracts, if there was a contract at all. He's fighting for the people where folks said, just sign your name on a dotted line, put an X there, and everything will be good. And it wasn't good. He's fighting for all the people who were pioneers, who went out on the first wave and sacrificed and lay down on their swords. While they lay down on their swords, everybody else ran through because the war was over and they didn't have to fight anymore. And of course, as Sister Satana says, the future artist. I'm going to tell you guys a story about my relationship, my early relationship with the Muslim community in terms of doing comedy. I ticked off two major groups of people. The old heads in the Muslim community and Hollywood. I ticked off the old heads in the Muslim community, particularly my brothers in the immigrant Muslim community, and Hollywood. I left Hollywood, brothers and sisters, to pursue this idea called Allah Made Me Funny after 9/11. I waited 2 years to see what the impact would be on 9/11. And then about 2002, I began devising this way that we could fight Islamophobia as it was beginning to come, fight anti-Muslim rhetoric, and really get into Muslim identity politics, Muslim imaging, whereby we frame our own image, then take it to the marketplace, not being reactive, but being preemptive. I'm going to be preemptive. If there's going to be a yelling contest, brothers and sisters, my idea was get to the best place where you could do the yelling. If there's a market, you get to the best part of the market where the sales are. You don't go to the back of the market, you go where there's high traffic. And you yell, and you shout, and you hawk. And that's what I did with Allah Made Me Funny. Hollywood will never forgive me, brothers and sisters. They will never forgive me because I didn't ask their permission. There are some in the Muslim community, some non-charities that we're supposed to be cool now. But I remember those conversations that we had early on. And many of them will never forgive me. And part of when people don't forgive you, they try to forget you. Sorry, Hollywood. I did all that made me funny, and I framed it in this whole idea of prophetic tradition behind Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings upon him, and the wisdom and the insight of Imam War through Muhammad, and the future and the legacies that were left to us by Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad, Martin Luther King. I'm sorry, I didn't ask permission. Actually, I'm not sorry. Dave Chappelle is simply saying, I'm not sorry. Because you're not sorry. He's not sorry because why? He's right. He's 100% right. Dave Chappelle had this argument in 2006 and it almost ended his career. He went into hiatus. And the people where he found resolve, and the people where he found, I want to say support, were the people who launched him in that space. He says he likes being famous. He said, but some parts he doesn't like. Well, you can't pick and choose parts of being famous. He likes being famous where he's at home, but when he goes out, he doesn't know the motivations of people. And I've seen it up close. There was a very well-known comedian back in the day. When your own brother Preacher Moss was in Hollywood back in 1998, there was at the Laugh Factory doing my jokes, putting in my time, trying to build my act. And I had a guy named John Adams. He was actually in my writing class. John Adams didn't have a car. I don't know why he lived in LA, he didn't have a car, but I would pick up John and a couple other people, and we would go to the Laugh Factory. And at this particular night, I went to the Laugh Factory. I did my set, and I would have to get home because I had to teach in the morning. So I had to drop all these bums off and go back down to Long Beach. And he said, wait, there's a dude that wants to talk to you. He's up here. I was like, what dude, man? I got to go. He said, no, you got to go. He want to talk to you. And I walked up, and that individual was, okay, call it what it was. It was Damon Wayans, who had done In Living Color, who had done The Last Boy Scout. He had 2 shows on at the time that had just been canceled. I'm like, wow. And he was interested in little old me. And I said, wow. And he asked me if I could write. And I was like, yeah, I could write. And he asked if I did scripts. I don't really know how to do scripts, but I was like, I'll find out. And essentially, brothers and sisters, I wound up writing with Damon Wayans for about a year. And, I'll give him some props. He was going through some personal problems. But he was writing a book. And the book was called Bootleg. He had to turn his book in. And I've given all these notes and all this type of stuff and come up with material. He took a really good bit from me. My mom had to watch the bit I had told about months ago come out of his mouth in an interview. And I had a good friend of mine, Owen Smith, call me up and go, you're in Damon Wayans' book. I'll never forget, I think it was page 70 or 71. And the title of it was called When Your Wife Doesn't Like Your Friends. And he put my name, as well as my material, he put my name in a skit where his wife thought I was a creep. His wife, who I had never really met, but thought I was a creep. And I'm like, why would you do that? And I confronted him about it. And he said something, roughly akin to what Dave Chappelle said when he was young. He said, well, yeah, well, you can sue me. He said, but who are you? Who are you? I'm Damon Wayans. I can buy lawyers all day long. Can you, Mr. Teacher? He said, I could ruin your career. You could ruin your own career looking for justice. And in a situation where I'm not very proud of brothers and sisters, I backed down. That was the last time I'd ever backed down. And I'm happy to see Dave take this stand because more of us need to do that. In our Muslim community, folks, I love us, but we're scared. We're scared. We don't have the temerity to stick out these larger arguments. I met Dave Chappelle in 2006 and sat down and talked to this brother at the behest of a pioneer out of Masjid Muhammad who did not know Dave Chappelle, who didn't watch the Chappelle show. All he heard was he was a black man, he was a comedian, and he was in trouble. And he said, "You're the same one." He said, "Go see about our brother." I said, "Ever seen a set before?" He said, "No." "Video, TV?" He said, "No." I said, "I just heard the boy's in trouble." And by the guys of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, think about this. I wind up in the same city where he is on a dark night, and I just happened. It's all about barakah of Allah. I just happened to find out he had the DC Improv where I had a little pool and I can go there, and there was a Muslim guy named Red that worked there, and Red was like, "I can get you in." And I met Dave Chappelle. And by the mercy of Allah, he knew about Allah Made Me Funny. And he questioned it. He said, "How'd you guys get to where you are? Who's your manager? Who are your agents?" And I said, "Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." He said, "Wow." So for anybody who's going to watch this, I stand with Dave. I stand with Dave, not just as Preacher Boss comedian, but as a student of the Honorable Dick Gregory, who made this same stand years ago. People don't remember it, but he made the same stand years ago on the Jack Parr show. And his engagement with civil rights and pursuing justice, he lost his career. When he passed away, he was 84 years old, still doing jokes. And the world, much of the world had forgotten about him. I'm 53. I told Mr. Gregory, I don't think I'll be doing jokes when I'm 60. And he said, "Well, watch what," he said, "Be careful what you say." At this point, I just might be. Because these fights are about every one of you. These fights are about standing up to systems and scenarios that bleed us. The monsters who feed on greed. In this case, they feed on creativity that they can't produce. What do you think the rap game is? What do you think jazz is? It is people consuming art that they cannot produce. It is people willingly putting folks in debt, willingly putting folks in their careers in the hand and crushing them. Crushing them. Knowing that they couldn't produce a note or a joke or a line or a script or a piece of painting or a piece of sculpture, and they crush it. And the thing that gives them comfort is that they've been crushing it all the time. Some of you may not even like this, but I'm going to say it. One of the biggest fights I had with Allah Made Me Funny was with charity organizations. Charity organizations. They didn't want to pay the acts. They didn't want to pay the nasheed, so they didn't want to play a Negro, a black man who was not from their community. I was from the W.D. Muhammad community, by way, as a matter of fact, of the NOI. Don't holler at me about Rumi. Don't holler about me about Fick. If you can't tell me how to feed my kids, I'm sorry. I know they're important, but this is important. And I've come to teach. I've come to teach. I've come from a line of teachers, a line of religious teachers, and a line of social teachers, and a line, doggone it, of comedy teachers. And I'm teaching the masses. And the people who had never had comedy before, organized, said, "We're going to pick and choose. We don't want to pay you, but we'll pay this one. And we'll pay that one. And we'll pay this one." And what you created now is a situation that Dave Chappelle is talking about. You couldn't create it. You didn't appreciate it, so you took it. And here we are right now in 2020. People are upset. People are stressed out. people are enraged, outraged, because you elected a man, he said, I'm going to take it. And all the black people sat back and go, yep, we told you. Native Americans like, we ain't got nothing anyway. He can take whatever. He can take this garbage out of here. I ain't got nothing left. If the boys going to come to the reservation, he took it. And now you have a man who is going to risk it all. He's going to risk it all. I know a lot of people go, he got $100 million. Let me tell you something. You could lose $100 million. There's ways you could lose $100 million. Same way you could lose $100. You could lose $100 million. But he's going to risk it. And what didn't happen in 2006 was he didn't have the support. He wasn't the Dave Chappelle you see on Netflix now. There was no Netflix then. There was no Netflix. There was no recourse for Comedy Central. Viacom was the beast. And he was a guy who stood up to Viacom in quiet conversations with no Excalibur and no shield. And they tried to crush him. Well, I know the feeling of going to Hollywood and talking about entertaining Muslims without manipulating Muslims, without slipping in little pictures of alcohol or scantily clad women, or putting a terrorist on the show to go ha ha he he, or to make jokes about Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, or to even downgrade the religion of Al-Islam for a cheap joke. Somewhere, they have a Hall of Fame. Somewhere they have a back alley that's littered. It's not even a hall. It's got pieces of paper with all these comedians and artists that tried to do what Dave Chappelle is doing right now. And they didn't have the cachet. I can be honest. I don't have the cachet. I could go back to Hollywood, but it's a compromise. I'm seeing that coming back with my tail between my legs. Dave Chappelle. Brothers and sisters. And remember this. Remember this. Just like the OG told me in the masjid to go see about our brother, remember, Dave Chappelle is Muslim. He is Muslim. What level of Muslim? What level of devotion? What level of scholarship, piety? It means nothing. He's our brother. And I can say in 2006, Muslims liked the Chappelle show, but they didn't support Dave. I supported him. Allah made me fun, they supported him. I made harsh decisions about our own tour because it was important to keep the integrity towards this young man, because he was younger than me, 6 years younger than I was. And I owed him a duty and a responsibility. So I'm going to say this and I'm going to get off. We all need to take a step back and get off this thing, because Muslims, we're either intoxicated with the fame or we're intoxicated with telling people about themselves so we can feel better about ourselves. You're mad dad, my mad dad, you're mad dad, my dad. Hell, I took my shot, I ain't knowing about no mad dad. I'm like, man, let's just do good things. I'm going to call this brother. I'm going to text this brother. And I don't know about all of y'all. You may meet Dave Chappelle. You may not meet Dave Chappelle. I don't know. But I want to know that you're going to have this brother's back in dua. I want to make sure you have his brother's back in your prayers. Have his family in your prayers. Don't let him go through what he went through the last time. It was shameful. He looked around, brothers and sisters. When I came, I said, listen, brother, I'm a Muslim. I came on behalf of our brothers and sisters. He looked around. And he still looks around. And we show up to his events. And we yell, Allahu Akbar. We show up to his events and we go, yeah, Dave. Not understanding the pain a man went through. profound, scarring, spiritual calluses that the man has. And you know what? I got him too. I got him deep, deep, deep inside. Because I went through the same thing. I went through that process where nobody cared about you. Nobody really supported you. And then when they supported you and it was for everybody else. And it was for everybody else. But they didn't forgive you. And in not forgiving you, they opened up all that made me funny for everyone else other than me, other than a Omar Regan, other than a Azim Muhammad, other than a Musa the comedian. Support this brother. Not for me, not for him, but for us. We in the Muslim community can't be soft as butter in July anymore. You can't sit around and say these things are okay. You have to stand up, and it may be your last stand, brothers and sisters. It may be the last thing you do on this earth. But when you see the injustice, you see that the scales are tilted against somebody, and you're going to have to get in there knowing that the game is fixed, it's rigged, and you're going to have to fight anyway. That's Islam. That's what we believe in. Dave Chappelle's last stand is your last stand. Listen, I gotta go. I'm not emotional, but I'm sad because the damage to our Muslim entertainers is extensive. I go to retreats and I hear the pain, and I hear the art that they put out, and that art has tears. The notes are wet, they're moist because of that pain. That they love a community so much, but that same community would turn them out to the wolves, where you're going to be taken advantage of. You know, I say this as a convert, and I always say it. Oh, my mom just signed on. You're going to have to rewatch the telecast, mama, son, but I'll call you. Big up, Brother Bilal. Thank you for that. How's your show going, man? I hope, and support this brother's show. Please support Brother Bilal's show. Do you have the name of the show so I can promote it? Bilal, can you put it in the comment section real quickly before I leave, please? I'm getting ready to sign off. I'm asking everybody to support it. You know, my mom is on she's on the telecast today. You know, everybody talks about Allah made me funny and da-da-da. You know, there was a thing around where people in our community would look at Allah made me funny, it was successful and da-da-da, and they'd see myself, Azhar, and Mo, and no knock to them, no shade to them, but they would automatically assume that Azhar was the founder. I had a guy in a show in Houston with myself and Azim walk up to us and tell myself and Azim, you are so lucky that he put you on this show. You are so lucky. Mashallah. He put a mashallah on it. Not knowing that I have been working on this thing, brothers and sisters, since 2002. Do you know I have pictures of myself in a kufi on stage? Hold on a minute. I'm going to show y'all something. Look at this. It's me on stage in Milwaukee. You know what it says at the bottom? Look at it. 1993, brothers and sisters. Not 2003. 1993. What I have on my head? A kufi. What am I talking about? Comedy and this religion. What are you really gonna tell me? Support Brother Hassan's platform, New Freedom Exchange. Oh, you got another one, brother? Okay, now he has a new show called Being Bilal. We're gonna lots of stuff popping off. Okay, let me know when I gotta come on the show, brother. But I want people to walk away and understand that there's a history to this game. It's not fly by night. Dave Chappelle's last stand is about history. Because some of the people he's going to have to fight, they were never privy to what happened to them back in 2005 and 2004. Same way some of you people, I love you, but you're not privy to what happened before. I mentioned my mom, and I'm going to get off. You see, my mom is very, very vital to All It Made Me Funny. See, because back in 2002, the money wasn't rolling. I was hustling. I was grinding. My mother knows that. I was at a period, I've been fired from the George Lopez show, and I was really having to work myself into the George Lopez tour, brothers and sisters. And the show, too, as a matter of fact. Second time I got fired. You know what? And I wasn't doing so well. And I had this idea in the midst of everything about service. That doesn't come from me. That comes from the community. I want you to understand that. And I didn't have a lot of money to start it. My mother was the first investor in All It Made Me Funny. This tour started with $750 and a logo. And the rest is history. Of course, that's all law. That's God. That's all law. But I'm saying, understanding the history is something. So I'm not asking people to support Dave Chappelle for this Unforgiven thing that you're going to see on TV. You're going to watch it. Support him for what happened to him back in 2000, 2004, 2005, when there was nobody there. And help him be that bridge, because there has to be an emotional connection to what he's doing. He's literally asking the people not to watch his show, to stand on principle, not the contract, on principle, on fairness, on compassion, on mercy, on truth. All right, brothers and sisters, that's it for me. I hope everybody has an exceptional day. Inshallah, I look to see you tomorrow. If anything I said offended anybody, I apologize, but you got to keep it real. There's no profanity on the show, alhamdulillah, but even if there was, I'm just keeping it real. So I'm going to ask everybody to make dua for Brother Chappelle, his last stand, because I'm hoping, inshallah, there's another stand. Maybe there's a happy ending to this. I don't know. Allah knows best. Allahu Akbar. But support him. Support that family he talked about when he took the deal. When did he take the deal? He's 28 years old. He had a baby on the way, and he was broke. Dig that. Check out Unforgiven, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss. Stay blessed. Inshallah, I'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks again.
Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoy your shout out show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next shout out show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from Tar. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out tarifatar.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.